Thank you so much. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Awesome. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Nice. Okay, great. So today my talk is called The Power of Persistence in the Face of Layoffs. So before I begin, I would really like to know and open it up to all of you. What brings you all here today? Are there questions that you have, or topics that really made you join this conversation? And feel free to come off mute. This is meant to be a very interactive presentation, so I'd love to hear from you, or just put it in the chat. Anyone?
Hi, I can go first.
Yay!
So
Awesome.
yeah, so I recently finished a user experience design program at my local college, and now I'm looking for jobs. So that's why I'm here to get to network and to meet other people and to get insights if I can. Yeah.
Fantastic. Love to hear it.
Hello, everyone. I'm a student and I'm studying DTI, Digital Transformation, and concentration is UX. So actually, it's one of my first events that I'm just in. So yeah, I just wanted to broaden my knowledge about the UX and also have the ability to network with other people.
Love it. Networking is amazing. So excited to hear that. And then I see Rebecca. So you posted in the chat that you completed a boot camp. Congratulations. That's amazing. Yeah, and it's definitely hard given the increased competition. So I love to hear all this. It helps me set the tone for the presentation. And I'm also here to offer any advice. I mentor as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through my presentation. There'll be moments where I'll open it up for conversation. And then basically the second half of our time together will be open discussion. So any questions that you have of anything that I've raised, feel free to save your questions for the end. But also, again, I'm going to be opening it up. So anyone else want to chime in before I get started? All right. So the way that this presentation is going to flow is I'm going to start by addressing how I faced obstacles throughout my career. I'm also going to talk through the power and importance of persistence and patience throughout your design career. I'm also going to ignite your creativity through some inspiring examples of what I've done to help land a job at Lululemon and increase my network throughout the design community. And then at the end here, again, opening it up for discussion. So part one, facing obstacles. So this is an overview of my design journey, and Christina, you mentioned it at the beginning, but I'll sort of quickly talk through where I've been and where I am now, and what I've gone through to get where I am now. So I started my career at Constant Contact as an intern. So that was a summer internship when I was in college. And then I moved on to Salesforce, where I worked there for about a year. And I worked for both the web design team and the marketing team. So throughout my career, I've always had a passion for design, an interest in working in a diverse group. And at the time, I was working in an office right outside of Boston. And then I worked at IBM for almost 4 years. And I think one of my previous coworkers, Zach, is here. Hi, Zach. Thank you so much for joining. And that's awesome. So Zach is a machine learning engineer, and we work super closely in the Cambridge office at IBM. So my experience there, I actually also attended a boot camp. So I've always had this passion for continuously learning, and at IBM I was on the learning team. So that's really what set the tone throughout my whole career, is consistently learning, especially after graduating university, having that mindset that there's always more to learn, and that if you take time to set goals throughout your career, it will really help you achieve success. So like I mentioned, I was at IBM for almost 4 years. I attended a boot camp. I traveled for my job. I was in New York. I went to Austin, Texas. It was a really great opportunity to work with a global team. So I worked with designers, developers, machine learning engineers, product management throughout the entire globe. So, being flexible with work hours is something really good to learn, especially remote now. And my interest at the time, after 4 years at IBM, were to work for get experience at client and design agencies. So I went on to move to Tank Design, which is a small design agency outside of Cambridge. Small but mighty. It was an awesome experience to work with a lot of different clients across a lot of different industries. I worked with Eaton Vance, Wealth Management, Citizen Bank, Google, FedEx. So got a really wide range of industry experience at Tank. And then previously worked at Huge Inc. So at Huge, my main client was Google. So working super closely with Google and making sure that I met client needs and working with cross-functional partners as well. So this is my breadth of, I've had in-house experience, agency experience, big and small tech firms, and a broad range of design tasks. And really today, what I want to talk to you all about is my experience throughout my career and what I've done to land these amazing opportunities, but also remain motivated and passionate even after, unfortunately, being affected by the layoffs at Huge. So right off the bat, yes, I was laid off. That's what this talk is about. But it's also a talk about persistence and motivation throughout my career. So as we know, the tech layoff wave is unfortunately still going pretty strong in 2024. This, to me, is like the big elephant in the room, even now. A lot of, unfortunately, designers have been affected at many different levels. And right here, I have a quote directly from TechCrunch that that number is real. 60,000 people have unfortunately been affected by layoffs across 254 companies. So these companies include Tesla, Amazon, Google, TikTok, Snapchat, Microsoft. And yes, knowing that I worked at Huge, my biggest client was Google. It was a question in my head a lot. What if I get laid off? So I want to talk to you all about that. I'm going to get very open with you all and share essentially, my thoughts, emotions throughout this experience. And also, it just doesn't affect the big tech companies. Unfortunately, smaller size startups have also been affected, and in those cases have been shut down altogether. Something that when I started my career in design, like I actually graduated from my university studying art. So what I've learned is that a lot of designers tend to have very creative backgrounds, whether it's art, animation, very creative mindsets. Like one of the biggest things I love about my community are the people that I've gotten to know, super creative, very interested in, exploring definitely outside of design. Like there are people that are like bakers and in the music industry and like have all these amazing like entrepreneurial mindsets. So, knowing that like people that I really care about in my community are getting affected, yeah, it's something. The reason I'm doing this talk is to really help my community, to offer my advice and really support one another, because it's definitely something hard to talk about. Having of course been affected. So, as I talk through my experiences, like, I want to create excitement and passion for design, but also here's the experience that I went through. So like I had mentioned, this thought of like, what would I do if I got laid off happened for a couple years, ever since basically 2020. I started my podcast at the beginning of the pandemic, and I was at IBM at the time. And unfortunately, some of my close coworkers were affected by the layoffs. And that was a moment pretty early on in my career that I was like, whoa, like this really happens. This is serious. And what can I do to help? So I've always leveraged LinkedIn as my primary source to communicate and reach out to my community. So I posted on LinkedIn to really, help designers. And I started mentoring after that. So I'm on ADP list. If anyone, wants to get to know me outside of this, I mentor on ADP list. And really, throughout my career, I've always had this like uh, outgoing personality that's allowed me to enjoy networking, enjoy getting to know my community. So for the last 8 years, I've built up an awesome network. So I kind of said to myself, like, well, getting laid off is sort of out of my control, so I won't worry about it until it happens to me. And that's sort of where my brain landed. It's like, like, what can I really do right now? Like, it doesn't seem like there's any jobs, so I'll just stay at Huge. So really, what affected me in the last even just like year or so was when I would go on LinkedIn, I would start to see all of these voices in design at companies that I have admired throughout my entire career, companies that I know that the people that work for them are super passionate. So hearing, these voices speak out and talk about the layoffs so openly, vulnerably. For instance, like an individual said, so many layoffs are currently occurring across the design industry. Countless individuals are sadly realizing that they're just a number in the brands and that they've been loyal to for many years. Layoffs stink. Yeah, layoffs stink. It's tough out there. I'm sadly part of the recent layoffs. Like, and so just sharing their thoughts and being very, very vulnerable. So I've also mentored designers. So the designers I mentor tend to be more entry level, coming into the field with this big change that's happening. Like, I will say that, there's been a lot of, changes, rapid growth. AI, of course, is a hot topic. Like, talk about ChatGPT coming in and really like showing us that AI can be used. Anyone can use AI. Like, it's not just for people with like high tech abilities. It's something that like someone's grandmother can use ChatGPT. So creating experiences that really like can affect jobs, but also just in general get people nervous about how am I going to learn, how am I going to upskill, how am I going to reskill, how am I going to keep up with all these changes that are happening. So I had this mindset of like, yeah, it's probably never going to happen to me. Like, I work with Google, I've worked at IBM, I have all these amazing brands in my back pocket. So it was January 31st. I was sitting right here at this desk in my room, which is where I am right now. And I received an email from our new CEO at Huge, informing the whole company that there had been layoffs. So this had been the fourth round of layoffs. So there's been times in the past I've received the same email that says, you're going to receive an email and within an hour notifying you that you've been affected. So I have the timestamp in the right side to kind of create a little bit more of an impact to show you like, this is how quickly it happened to me. And these were my emotions. So I was talking to one of my coworkers and she said, oh, did anyone get that email? Did you guys see that email? So I looked, read it, and then I received another email from HR, letting me know that I had been impacted. So by 10:20, I received the email. 10:30, I was like messaging my coworkers. I knew that I had a meeting in HR that basically like, here's the facts and then you're out and then you're locked out of your computer. So I was sort of in a panic mode, like shocked essentially. And so by 11:15, I met with the HR representative. And I will say, like, one of the biggest, I would say, like, not positive outcomes, but something that I'm happy I know now is that I had reached out to my manager at the time, and she didn't even know that I was being laid off until 10 minutes before I got the email. She even said that even up the ladder, executives were saying, how could this happen? Like they essentially fought for me. I was also up for a promotion. So all these things, I'm finding out a lot of information in a short amount of time. And immediately I think, well, in life, you are served obstacles. And what's really important is how you handle that, how you face those obstacles. So by 11:35, so going back, 11:15, met with HR. 11:35, I was locked out of my work laptop. So they give you about 5 minutes after the meeting with HR, where basically they're telling you like, here's your severance package, here's this, and giving you the information that you'll receive. And I didn't have much time to like gather any documents, so I was shut out at 11:35. And to me, I think the hardest thing was the silence, like being alone in my room. I work remote, by the way. And as I've told you before, like starting my career, I worked at Salesforce in the office, I worked at IBM in the office. And so when the pandemic hit, that's when a lot of the world went remote, as we know. So when you go through something like this, it's traumatic and you feel very alone. So I called my family. My cousin was really amazingly supportive and basically told me to like get creative. This is a really, pivotal time. I called my aunt, who's also on the call right now. Hi, Auntie. And like just getting that emotional support from the people that I love and that care about me. So if this ever happens to you, or if this has happened to you, you sort of start thinking about your family. And I immediately was like, okay, I can't deal with the silence. Even after calling like my family, my friends, everyone's busy. I decided to publish a podcast episode that day. This is such a Liz thing to do. Like, I am not shy. Like, I'm like, okay, let's put it out there. It was very therapeutic, but also this isn't my advice to you. Like, if this happens to you, oh, tell everyone, for me, this helped to voice it. And I published the podcast episode. I posted it on LinkedIn and I posted it on my Instagram story. So I'm bringing in like my professional network, and I'm also bringing in my, more personal friendship network. And so I received an overwhelming amount of support. And what I found comforting at the time was like other people's vulnerability to me and saying, hey, I've been affected by layoffs as well. And, this is definitely a very difficult time. And no one doubted me like that I would succeed. So that also helped. There was not a lot of like doubt and essentially like people maybe saying like, I don't know if this is going to work out. But in my head, I was like, I'm going to lose everything. Nothing against Boston, but I was like, what if I have to move back to Boston? I'm thinking all these things, but I'm like, what if basically in my brain, what would happen if I lost everything that I've worked really hard for? I've also worked hard to maintain a really great reputation throughout my career at all these amazing companies, but also like sharing my knowledge with my podcast, mentorship. I was afraid of like this being like a big moment of discreditation. And on my podcast, I said the words, this is quoting myself here, you don't really know what it feels like until it happens to you. And when I said this on my podcast, I started to cry and I was like really emotional, but I still posted it. I was like, this is like the raw, like, this is like my emotions. Like as professionals in the tech industry, it's like, we're trained to like withhold our emotions. Of course, I've gotten emotional throughout my career. Like a lot of people have seen me be upset because I care. Like I really care, and I've worked really hard to get where I am. So that was the thought that I was having is, I wish I planned for this. Like, but you can't. Like, you don't really know. So that brings me to the power of persistence. Like my advice to you all, based on what I had gone through, and this was only 3 months ago. I went into like survival mode, right? I went into, all right, it's me. I got to figure this out, and I don't want help. I want to do this on my own. And how am I going to do this on my own? The first thing I did was I was upset, but I said to myself, don't burn any bridges. Like it's really easy to get upset, get angry, point fingers. But even as I mentioned, like my manager wasn't even aware of this happening. Like you don't really know who's in charge of these decisions really high up the ladder. Likely it's someone who doesn't even really know you. So I actually reached out to my coworkers at Huge to give me any recommendations. So if you look at my LinkedIn, you'll see like if you scroll down, I have a lot of recommendations from my previous coworkers, and that also like helped me feel good. Like, oh wait, I actually did a good job. People like to work with me. So that's my first piece of advice is like, it's a hard time, and like it's easy to get like lost in the idea of like why me, why did this happen, like getting down on yourself a little bit. But you'll see that building connections is really important during this time. So because I was so vocal, because I posted on LinkedIn, because I posted on my Instagram, like my community was there for me. They got my back, like I was able to have one-on-one chats with people that I hadn't talked to and probably wouldn't have talked to if this hadn't happened to me. When people say like, oh, if there's anything I can do to help you, like definitely like follow up on that. Like if you want to have a coffee chat with someone, again, like I work remote, but I was really interested in like getting out in the world. Like I met with people in the community in Miami. I've done a talk at Brain Station, which is in Wynwood here. And like the person that I'd done the talk with, he met with me in Wynwood, and we exchanged ideas and thoughts. And it was really nice to get support through this really difficult time. So another thing that I did was I set daily goals. So this really helped me track my progress. I'm not an Excel person. I don't like spreadsheets. I'm like a designer. I like things to look really good. But this like really helped me track like, hey, I'm doing the thing. Like I would track the next day I started applying. And back to like building connections as well. Like I was able to land amazing interviews with people I had previously worked with, which really like helped motivate me. And to know that like I'm valued. That's another thing, is like you kind of question like, are you valued? Like is this something that like is forever? How long will this last? So setting daily goals really helps track that progress. So what I would do is when I would apply to a job, I would write down the title of the job in one column, and then I would write down the link of where the job description was from. And to do that really helped me like see like what companies that I was applying to, setting daily goals, like apply to 5 jobs a day, reach out to hiring managers. That's another thing, back to the point, like I'm not shy. I'm not afraid to like message someone on LinkedIn and say, hey, I just applied to your open role. I would leverage LinkedIn a lot, take a lot of screenshots of like hiring managers that were posting job descriptions and like directly reach out to them. You'll get ghosted. I have a podcast episode about it. It's good to get ghosted because it's going to help you, it's going to help you grow, and you'll just one day you'll get a response, and then that'll essentially change your world. So here's an overview of like what here's an overview of the numbers here. So 7 weeks it took me to land a job. I sent 72 job applications and I had 10 interviews. So this is I guess the outcome of a go-getter's mindset, where I had like basically in my head, I was like in survival mode, I mentioned. So I would step out of my apartment. I actually worked remote at this amazing place called Citizen M, and that helped me like feel motivated around really like highly motivational people. So by having those processes in place, tracking my progress, setting goals, reaching out to people, working outside of my apartment was like good for my mind. And I landed the job at Lululemon, which is a company that I really feel valued. One of the things I said on my podcast that day, and I kept listening back to it, was I promise that the next opportunity I get will align with my values as a person. Like, whoa, I mean, 8 years of experience and I've worked for amazing companies, but there's been a little bit of something missing. Like I have a lot of passion for yoga. So I was actually taking my yoga teacher training when I was impacted by the layoffs. So having a company that aligns with my personal values was really like my number one mindset, and also feeling valued. So meeting my team, they immediately were like, we believe in you, we feel like you'd be a great fit. So I think that it's like amazing to, you know, be at a company that really values you and appreciates your opinion. So all of that happened to me, you know, like 7 weeks isn't a long time. I worked as if it was like a full-time job, essentially. I will say that if you are impacted by layoffs, something that happened to me is that a lot of people end up asking for your help. So one of the things that I will say is, like, for me, I was like, I'm gonna say yes to everything. I'm gonna just say yes, like if it's like an opportunity, if I have to work for free, I'll do it, whatever I can do. But it kind of was exhausting to say yes to everyone. So, you know, definitely set boundaries if this ever were to happen to you. And know that you can say no, and you can essentially, hold back on certain opportunities, or take time to think about it. Okay, so I noticed that there's a question in the chat. So I'm gonna pause before I move on to this part. Rebecca, okay, when you applied for that many jobs, did you tailor everything to a single job? Ooh. So it's easy to send a job application. Like, you can have one resume. You could probably up my numbers. You could probably have had like 10, 20 if you really wanted to, job applications. But because the competition is really, really, there's a lot of competition right now, essentially. A lot of, unfortunately, designers are getting impacted. So it's really important to tailor your resume to the job application 100%. That's what I spent a lot of my time doing. I will say also, templatizing your resume is really important, and leveraging the tools that exist, like AI. Of course, there are tools out there that will help you cater your resume to the job description. So I did my best to leverage like ChatGPT, highlighting certain aspects of the job description if they're looking for certain skills, like if they're looking for someone who's like really like highly has a lot of experience in prototyping, animation, wireframing. You know, these are things you want to bring into your resume. So I have a lot of advice I can offer to how to tailor the job description. But to me, it was more about taking the time to really personalize it. And what I think set me apart was not just sending my application in, but reaching out to the hiring managers. I did my research to figure out like who worked for those companies, who potentially was hiring for those companies. There are ways that you can find, essentially, sometimes like hiring managers will have that tag on their LinkedIn profile picture that says hiring. So immediately saying, hey, I reached so-and-so, I just applied to this job. Again, you probably will get ghosted. Like, a lot of the times I got ghosted. So it's okay. I say go for it. Like, really, what do you have to lose to reach out to someone in a very polite way, and share that you're interested in working with them. All right, so I know I'm going to wrap this up in a bit and open it up for discussion, but for me, what really helped was taking care of my body and my mind during this time. So I had mentioned I was completing my yoga teacher training. I love yoga. It's something that I've practiced for years. So this really helped me sort of like be mentally okay, and be able to go to my studio and practice, and like clear my mind of the stress that I had. So that's something that I'll say. I'm not saying do yoga essentially, but take care of your body and your mind, and however you feel that will be beneficial for you. Next, I'll say always be learning. So this is something that my fellow IBMers would recognize here. So something that I'm really interested in is music, and I would say 6 months ago, I started to learn how to DJ, and I was like DJing for like my friends in Miami, and it was just like all fun and like light. But when I lost my job, I was like, okay, well, what's really exciting that I can like kind of dive into that is sort of like apart from design, that can just be like something that is fun and enjoyable, that I can share with other people. And people have said to me like, oh, Liz, I love your energy. So I'm like, oh, cool. Like, being a DJ, like I'll spread my energy, like that's really fun. So learning something new is always a great way to like stay motivated and excited. And lastly here, it's like get inspired by the world around you. So if you work remote, you can understand that being inside sometimes like can be demotivating, or like you really need fresh air. And I guess easy for me to say, I live in Miami, I can go for a walk almost any day, but just, get inspired by the world around you, however you want to do that. Go for a car ride, sit outside on your porch, like just like enjoy nature. And that really also helps clear your mind. So here I have like the things that I've been doing ever since I was affected that are very positive. So I'm a yoga teacher. I've been DJing at clubs in Miami. I'm also learning Spanish because I live in Miami, and it's just like it's about time, honestly. So here's a summary of all the advice that I have for you. Just running it through again. Don't burn bridges, build connections, set daily goals, always be learning, take care of your body and mind, and then get inspired by the world around you.